Greetings from Sweden and welcome to Everyday Mystic, an aid to your liberation. My name is David and today I'm going to respond to a comment from one of my subscribers. And the question in the comment was, is there such a thing as healthy fear? And my simple answer is yes and no. And it depends on what level you approach this from. And I'm actually going to bring up a lot of things that you said in the comment already. So in a sense, a lot of the question is already answered. Because essentially to me, this is a question of what drives us. What emotions cause us to act in the world? And first let me talk a little about this concept about love or fear, because it is so easy to get lost in words while thinking that we have made sense while others might perceive us completely differently. So, the idea is essentially that love and fear is what all of the emotions that drive us towards acting in the world can be boiled down to. The easiest example is probably that when we act from a place of hatred, anger, hostility and so on, it's really because we are afraid. We might be afraid of another person or a group of people, or we might be afraid of a situation that we feel that we are not in control over. Fear of losing control is a very big issue here. And I would say that other than an immediate response towards a hostile situation, it's better to avoid acting from anger completely. And in all situations, hostility and hatred are emotions that, while we need to recognize them within ourselves and accept that they are never good emotions to act from. But essentially then, love or fear is what we approach the world from. Sometimes our actions can look the same, but come from one place or another. You can also look at this and look at how you approach life, approach the world, approach the situation that we have found ourselves in. Can you remain faithful to that there is a higher purpose to what is happening in the material 3D reality? Or do you succumb to fear? Do you succumb to the idea that we just need to do everything we can to preserve ourselves, to preserve the world, and therefore accept any types of measures, no matter how wrong they feel to us? These are important questions to ask ourselves as we go through this journey. I know that I truly believe that there is a plan with everything that happens in the world right now. There is a light in the end of the proverbial tunnel. And we just need to hold on and keep our hopes up. But I know it's not easy. We see voices every day spreading doom and gloom and telling us that we need to prepare for a more violent world. I truly believe that this is the fear response that we absolutely need to stay away from. And instead put our trust in God, put our trust in a higher purpose, and feed these emotions. And this is what I believe it all comes down to in the moment that we are in. because I truly believe that we are on the verge of growing up as a species. And you actually in your comment brought up the idea of a child that needs fear in order to stay out of trouble. And of course, this becomes even more relevant for teenagers and young adults, where wisdom not always develops together with the opportunities for making negative choices and the freedom that comes from ultimately becoming an adult. And therefore, if fear is needed, and here comes the yes and no part of my answer. If you need fear in order to avoid making bad decisions, then fear is a good thing. But we need to evolve and grow. And when we do, we grow in wisdom, we grow in discernment, and then it becomes more easy to make loving choices that are wise instead. And this is also what I believe, as I said, when it comes to humanity as a collective. As above, so below. This is the child metaphor. Humanity has been in its infancy for a very long time. But now it's time to grow up. Grow out of the fearful negative emotions. Grow out of being ruled by our instincts. Grow out of being ruled by all of the negativity that we see around ourselves in our culture. And instead grow up and mature in our relationship with ourselves, with other people, and with God, and ultimately become a vessel for God's love to spread out into the world. This is what I truly believe we stand in the verge of. But until we have grown in wisdom, we might need fear to curtail us from making decisions that destroy us. And just to be clear, I don't have all of this figured out. I probably still need fear to curtail me from doing certain things still. So this is again not about right and wrong, it's just about our own personal evolution and our evolution as a collective. I personally still also need external guidance. This is why, for example, I still read a lot of Christian thinkers. Because no matter what else may be true about Christianity, we take it down to the individual level and use it as a tool to guide us in the world as we interact with it, instead of using it as a tool for condemning other people, blaming other people, and come with little pointers for other people that they should live in another way than they do, and instead take it back to ourselves. Then Christianity gets a whole different meaning for us. I know that there is a lot of baggage with the word Christianity, so I don't want you to get too caught up with when I use it. Sometimes I prefer to call myself a very faulty follower of Jesus instead, to avoid this baggage. But I'm not going to dwell on this now. This was just a little side note that I got caught up in. But the point that I'm trying to make about this is that the same thing can be applied to guidance from our lower emotions. Because it's very easy to convince ourselves to make the wrong choices if there are not some anchors in our lives. And honestly, I would wish that I was totally free from the mess of thoughts, wishes, desires, faulty societal programming, peer group programming, etc., that affect my decisions in a way that is not to either my best interest or other people's best interest. Because we can avoid self-destructive behavior because we are simply afraid. But there is also another side to this. We can do the exact same thing because we love ourselves enough to avoid it. Because we have the wisdom and discernment to understand what the behaviors are all about. And as I said, on the outside, the choices might look exactly the same, but on the inside it makes all the difference. And this is what is happening in our spiritual awakening right now. We are moving away from being focused on the outside world, from being focused on interacting with the outside world through this ego persona that we have built up, through what I just mentioned, the faulty programming that has gone into it. It doesn't mean that all of the programming is wrong, by the way. But now we can start this essentially alchemical process by consciously looking at what we find within ourselves and clean out everything that we find there, that we find that is dysfunctional, or actually, what I believe is more accurate, shed the light on it and then just allow God to come in and clean it, and just be ready to let go when we are ready to do so. But as I said, we are moving from this taking action out in the physical 3D reality and into our inner disposition instead. And the more we grow in this, the more we unlock within ourselves, the more we find within ourselves, the more we clean within ourselves, the more we set ourselves straight on the inside, the more the right choices out in the 3D reality will present itself to us. And again, love with discernment will cause us to naturally act in our and other people's best interest. So this is first and foremost then of making conscious choices about our inner lives. Be conscious about what drives our actions, because this is actually not at all clear. Most people are very unaware of their true motivations behind their actions. Is it love or fear? I think it is a very good starting point to continually ask ourselves this question. What is driving my actions right now? For example, when you have an argument with another person, can you even argue from a place of love? Or will the place of love automatically cause you to take a step back and instead try to see the other person's perspective? This is not easy. None of this is easy. So I don't want you to beat yourself up when you fail with this. I fail with this all the time. I'm talking about things that I understand, but I am not even near to put this into perfect practice. I fail and fall all the time, but I am beginning to understand more and more about what it means to take back our focus to the present moment, to what is going on the inside, towards what emotions are driving our actions in the present moment, instead of allowing ourselves to just react habitually as we've always done before. And the more you manage to do this, I talk about this a lot, because it's very important that you get this fundamental fact of the human condition right. The more you bring consciousness into the present moment and to everything that is going on within and outside of yourself, and the more you can let go of all of the ego programming that is attached to your behavior, the easier it will get to make the shift. To truly wake up and go from what in many circles is called the 3D to the 5D. I can honestly say that to me this is just words, but it has to do with the things that I'm talking about. It has to do with a shift in perception, both when it comes to what is going on inside of ourselves and how this causes us to interact with the reality around us, and thus what reality it causes us to experience. So basically, to bring this back to the original question, the less consciousness we have, the more fear is needed, because our guidance system is not very functional when we are very unconscious. This is also, by the way, why while we are more unconscious, we need also to more rely on what the law, the government, etc. tells us. But the government and the law and things like that are becoming so unconscious, so faulty, so corrupt, that where we are right now, we are more or less forced to become more conscious, to reflect and make conscious choices for ourselves. Because those that are put in place to make those choices for us when we are unconscious are not making choices that are in our best interest anymore. So, in this process, it is also very important, of course, to be honest with ourselves. There is nothing wrong with admitting that we have a lot of work to do still. We have a lot of consciousness that we still need to bring into the present moment, into our experience. We are not perfect, almost none of us are. Maybe there are some enlightened beings here, but I'm certainly not one of them, and I am pretty certain that most people that listen to my channel aren't either. So there is nothing wrong with accepting that we need guidance even from lower emotions. We need external guidance so that we don't make mistakes that we have to pay for, maybe in such a final way that we don't get up from them. So therefore, ask yourself, what is your state of consciousness? What is your level of wisdom and discernment? When you are truly free to act, what will you do with this freedom? Will you act in the best interest of yourself? Will you act in the best interest of other people? Because this is not so clear. There is so much that we need to understand about ourselves that we don't do today. So again, bring more consciousness back into the present moment. Understand and question what motivates your actions. But I also think that love or fear is a really good perspective to have in the background of this. Because when you ask whether you act from love or fear, often the answer is quite clear. And then it becomes much easier to become conscious of your behavior so that you can make different choices. And I actually want to end this with a little discussion of the Bible. Because there is an idea in the Bible, in Christianity, of moving from the letter of the law. This is the Old Testament. This is all these minute little rules and regulations to make life work as it should. To the spirit of the law, which is what came with Jesus, what came with the New Testament, and where we instead act from a disposition in the world that is in line with what was taught in the law. But then we come to the times, the very special times that we are living in right now. And now we come to this full change into completely focusing on what inner state we are acting from. The higher state on the inside. This was what Jesus was showing us, I believe. How we can truly create paradise on earth. Through waking up. Yes, I'm going to frame it like this. I believe that Jesus was a unique individual, but I also believe that he showed what potential lies in every person, and I think that this is what actually is being unveiled today. This is in many spiritual circles what is referred to as the Christ consciousness, and this is what happens when we shift completely to our inner disposition, when we awaken life within ourselves, when we open up completely to the love energy that is permeating us all the time, but which we have been blocking out for such a long time. And when we do this, when we truly awaken to this state of consciousness completely, we will no longer need anything other than love to guide us. But we need to have discernment in this. There can be no ego at all when it comes to this. As long as there is egos who says that I want to be this or that, I want other people to see me in a certain way, I want honor and glory, and I have all of these desires attached to myself. When I act from this place, I cannot realize this Christ consciousness perfectly. I cannot yet realize my fundamental oneness with God. The ego has to go before this can be fully realized. And before this, we cannot completely rely on our own judgment. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please leave a like, leave a comment and share the video on social media and other places. All of it helps the channel to grow. And if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so YouTube always notifies you of new videos, which I now put up every Thursday and every Sunday. And check out the description and the comment section for other things that me and my wife are doing. And other than that, just sincerely thank you for your time.